everybody. My dad thinks his podcast is amazing, so please subscribe, give it 5 stars or whatever, and maybe he'll finally stop talking about it. Anyways, welcome to Sobriety.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Today we got another special guest, a good friend of mine and Jessica's. George McCloud's going to come on today, talk about his recent big achievements and also his journey to sobriety. So let's welcome George on into the show.
Hey.
Hey, George. What's up,
Hello.
buddy? How are you?
Howdy.
Number one, thanks. Go ahead. Sorry.
Getting used to Google Chrome. Don't usually use that.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm here.
Well, welcome to the show, buddy. I see you're in the man cave and not on the front porch today.
Yep. Didn't know if it would work on a phone, so here I am.
Love it. Well, the first thing I want to do is I wanted to say a huge, from both me and Jessica, congratulations on your achievement this week on getting your diploma, which is absolutely fantastic. I want to say congrats about that.
Thank you.
How you feel about it?
Yeah, well, it's taken a while. 39 years since I started in the fall of 1985. So I did 2.5 years. Couldn't handle the calculus and the chemistry, so dropped out for something easier and went in the Marine Corps. Had a good time there.
Wow.
And looked into finishing back in 2014. And there was a program called Interdisciplinary Studies, which was sort of like a fruitcake where you take everything that doesn't sort of go together and mash it together. So I could do it with 2 concentrations, aviation and business. And I got a bunch of credits from the 2 years of engineering I did, from the Marine Corps, language school in Marine Corps. And then I got 22 credits for my flight training. So I had to take 16 courses to finish up. And I got 12 of those done back in 2014-15, took a break. I separated. My father had a short bout with a brain tumor. And I restarted and stopped 3 times since 2015. And then after a year of sobriety, last December, I decided you might as well finish it up. I only had 4 courses to go. So I registered December last year, and then January through August, I took the last 4 courses. They were interesting, learned a lot. They weren't fun. So finished up August 16th and just got the email a couple of days ago that they verified everything. Degree is done. So I'll get the diploma in the mail. So yeah, check that box, 39 years and it's done. So
You should have like a PhD by now with all, that resume was impressive. What did you actually get your degree in?
Well, the title, it's a Bachelor of Science in Interdisciplinary Studies. So the 2 concentrations, one is aviation. And while I was active duty in the Marine Corps, 90 to 92 is when I took my flight training. I wanted to be a pilot. So I took my private, then got my instrument rating, then got my commercial rating. And then I got my multi-engine with, commercial and instrument ratings. And then nobody was hiring when I got off active duty in 92. So I got a temporary job at a bank. And I'm a different bank now, but I'm doing finance for the last 32 years. So aviation was one component of it. And then the other component was business, which would apply to my work. And they paid for the schooling as well. So it's called Interdisciplinary Studies. So
Jack of all trades.
Yeah.
That's
literally.
amazing.
Yeah.
That really is impressive. Wow.
Thanks.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Well, George, I did want to ask you, and actually it's not something I think you and I have ever really talked about. What was the moment or kind of the shift in your mind where you decided, this is it, or maybe the day before, week before, whenever it was, when you said, this is it, I'm done drinking, I'm not going to do it anymore? Yeah,
well, as I've heard, we've all heard a lot of times that, there were stops and starts over the years. So I finally got to the point, and it was end of November 2022. And I said, I can't do this anymore. And I remember looking at a glass, and I said, if you drink this, you're going to die. And I didn't want to do that. Didn't want to cut my life short, more so than I already had. So I had, downloaded the Reframe app, and then took about a week to scale back because there was some pretty high counts in there. And then December 6th was day one of 2022. So I think that's 643 days ago.
Yeah, you're
Wow.
coming up on 2 years. So when you say when you were looking at the glass and you thought, gosh, I'm going to die from this, was it something that you got from like news from your doctor?
Yeah.
Because obviously you and I both have lost a shitload of weight
Yeah.
since we quit drinking, but you especially, I mean, I can't believe your transformation, but I didn't know if that was something like a diagnosis you may have gotten
No,
or you just decided on your
I
own.
decided on my own, and I knew just from how I was feeling, the weight I was carrying. Because I think at that point I was about 285 and only 5'11". Oh, 7'2" would be different.
Yeah.
And maybe 2 years prior to that, I hit my peak at like 297, which it's real close to 300. And coming out of COVID, to go back in the office, none of the clothes I had fit because I'd put on so much weight, a lot of empty calories. And so I went to the store to buy more and went to like 3 stores and they didn't have anything that big. So I ended up going to a place called DXL. And after I found some pants, they were like 44-inch jeans, so they were big. Then I found out after I bought them that the DXL stood for Destination Extra Large. Um, so yeah, it was really just a self-observation. Work, now my prior job, was not going well. I think part of that has to be on my shoulders. And there's also a lot of internal movement and stuff. And I'd been at the place for 21 years. I'd had 5 managers in that past year, which was very unusual. And then the opportunity came up for another role. So it was a culmination of things. Just day-to-day life, physically feeling bad, spending too much money, not eating well, not exercising. So yeah, really, it was not a medical diagnosis in there. I just, on my own, I finally got to the point where I said, that's enough. So,
Which to me is even better, being able to do that and not getting news like, hey,
yeah,
your levels of this are terrible, and if you don't stop, you're going to fucking die. So for you to actually have that peace of mind, knowing that, hey, if I don't quit, this is what's going to happen.
yeah,
But watching you, I think I came in maybe about 6 months into your sobriety. I was in May, so yeah, about 7 months into it. Just the transformation I've seen over the past 16 months in you has been incredible. Physically
yeah.
And mentally as well. I mean, I could tell, and uh, just by you going back to school and stuff like that. I mean, that's a mental toll on you. Just got to be incredibly different from what it was when you were drinking. That's for sure.
It is. It's a lot different. The mental clarity, there's no comparison. Everything has gotten better. And really not much. I can't think of anything yet that has gotten worse. So between diet and food choice and not overeating, exercise, sleep, work, money not spent, calories, and according to the app tracker, it's like 640,000 calories not consumed. Since December 6th, 2022. And what else? I did take some notes. The weight loss was big, and it took 6 or 7 months after stopping and then satisfying the sugar cravings. Ate a lot of ice cream. Probably 2 or 3 like half-gallon containers a week. It was good. Didn't help the weight, but I had maintained my weight at about 285 from December until July, and I could feel the sugar cravings starting to wane off, and did not want to start anything before July 4th. Had a good meal on July 4th, and I had gone to the store recently. I talked about it before, Amish grocery store, and usually they've got a big bunker of ice cream, like $2 for a half gallon. So I went up there that weekend before July 4th, and the only flavor they had was like butter vanilla. And I was like, I'm not doing butter vanilla ice cream. Sounds like new frozen butter. So I stopped buying it, and then decided after July 5th, I was going to start exercising. And I think in the first 3 months, I think I dropped about 40 pounds in 3 months. And that was from watching my diet, not snacking, not eating late, eating healthier, and getting some exercise in. and I got a lot of tips from folks I've met on the journey about food choices and some small stuff they didn't think about before. So really the exploration of the new food has been interesting and rewarding too. So.
I have a question. So, and I've talked about this on a previous podcast. With my mental health, I was diagnosed with binge eating disorder. And I don't have substance abuse, but a lot of mental health stuff. And for me, it was you eat because you're chasing dopamine or, you're trying to satiate something. Would you attribute that with do you think that and the alcohol went hand in hand? Do you think that there was a bigger mental health crisis? I mean, and I know with addiction, it's mental health related, but I find that though the physical health and well-being is part of the recovery, not everybody has that problem with food and eating. And I suffer with that same thing. So I understand where that comes from. Was that something when you quit drinking, you noticed that helped a lot, or do you still seem to kind of struggle with a lot of those things?
Food, not so much anymore, and that has definitely shifted. And the initial thought was that if it wasn't drinking, then food's not as bad. I think one of the quotes that I share often is that while a chocolate chip cookie is not a perfect food, it's going to be better than having a drink. So it was definitely into food. It was comforting, and was not concerned about the calories at that point. Weight was staying consistent, wasn't going down at that point. But really it was probably for me a safe outlet to consume my time and probably get that dopamine hit rather than other choices.
Because very similarly to alcohol, I mean, and this might be a horrible comparison, but food is celebratory. We eat when we're sad, we eat when we're happy, and all of those things. So I could see that being a very easy transfer addiction as well.
Oh, yeah.
But something that you're into now that is one of my favorite aspects about you is you're like a barista at home. You have a whole coffee bar. And when we came to see you, I was just so impressed. And I mean, we have an espresso, and I thought that was fancy. I was doing something.
So you show up at George's house, and he's got this thing he built, his home Starbucks, basically, right?
Yeah, and he's the Michelangelo of coffee art. Tell us about how you got into that.
Yeah, well, still practicing, and still a lot of room to improve there. I've always liked coffee, and one of my sons, older sons, was staying with me for a few months, and he had gotten into coffee and espresso, and I liked the flavor of it, but never really tried to make it. So for a few months, we watched a lot of videos about making espresso and what machine is the best within price range. So settled on an espresso machine. It's an Italian thing called a Gadget Classic. Not super fancy, but it works very well. And I got a good grinder. Learned a lot about the beans. It's like if you get beans from the grocery store, they're usually old. And I don't get the fresh roasted stuff so much anymore just because of the price, but found espresso beans that work well. And then you watch the video on YouTube of somebody that makes some shape in the espresso, and then you try it, it looks completely different. But the good thing is that even if, say, a latte designed with a steamed milk doesn't come out the way the video does, the taste is the same, which is really good. And I had remodeled the kitchen a year before the coffee bar, and I had 2 extra cabinets left over, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do with them. So I went back to the store, found out I could get matching cabinets. They still made the same color. So I wanted to that to be my treat. So about the time I started the new job, went and got more cabinets. The guy that did my kitchen, he had time available. So I didn't do much of the work. I did just a few small things. So he came out and had to run plumbing. So I've got a sink there to wash stuff up. Had some outlets put in. I picked out the butcher block countertop, which is different from the white in the kitchen because it's the same color as the coffee grounds. because if you drop one coffee ground on a white countertop, you can see it from 10 feet away.
Oh yeah.
But the butcher block countertop, I do clean it, but it doesn't stand out. So yeah, and with the coffee bar, and I noticed it's been over a year now, or one of the routines I've gotten in just to wake up and enjoy the mornings is that I'll make the espresso in the morning, see how well the latte art turns out, and most of the year I can hang out on the front porch around sunrise, and then I'll take a picture with the latte in the sunrise. The dogs are usually there, and the other thing I've done to layer into that is I'll look for a musical artist's birthday who is that day. Like today is Patsy Cline. I didn't realize she was like 31 or 32 when she died. But so today's song was "Walking After Midnight." So I would take a picture of the latte with the sunrise, pick out a musical artist whose birthday it is, and then pick a quote. A lot of it from the Stoics, the guys 2,000 plus years ago, with an inspirational quote, and they just do that every day, and that gives me, on work days when I have to go in the office, 10, 15 minutes. Other days on the weekend, I'll hang out there for an hour or two and do the latte art, enjoy it, drink it, and then also get some reading in or just watch the birds, deer. We've had turkeys, all kinds of stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be right over. That sounds amazing. Did you make notes of all of that?
Well, I see it every day, so obviously I follow George on Instagram. So
I see him too.
I get to see it every morning. I get to see it's great. It's always the morning coffee. The barista George, and then he turns into music George.
Yeah.
And then he turns into photographer George.
Yeah.
And always just catches the most beautiful picture in the morning. Especially with the dogs in the background and stuff like that. It's so amazing.
So you need to take a trip up there, and you need to take notes. I expect my coffee bar finished by Christmas. I would make a lovely Christmas.
We've got all it's funny because ever since we visited you, we actually have an area where Jessica's like, okay, this is where the coffee bar is going to go.
Yeah.
And yet it doesn't sit empty. The dog food is still there.
It sits empty.
But we haven't done anything with that.
Yeah.
So you did mention about Stoicism.
Yeah.
This actually something I don't think I've even shared with you. I actually started this about 10 days ago.
Okay.
I actually downloaded the Stoa app, and I've started to learn about Stoics and things like that. I kind of enjoy the teachings from it. How did you get into that? Because I didn't even know that you were into that as well.
Yeah, it started quite a while ago. One of the books recommended was the Daily Stoic, where it's got, I think, 366 readings. So like on a particular day, you pick out that day, and then it's got the quote from whoever the Stoic was, like Marcus Aurelius or Aristotle, one of those guys. And then it gives, which is helpful, an explanation of the context it came from and then the meaning behind it. Because sometimes you read the 2 or 3 lines and it's like, oh, that's neat. But then Ryan Holiday, the author, when he goes through it and gives explanation to it, then it gives more meaning. So I did get that book and read through that. And then also, there's a couple Instagram sites out there where I borrow their quotes that they've borrowed from the guys that actually said it. So yeah, and it's been good, and that approach to like don't let things beyond your control bother you, and expands from there. That has been layered on with some other readings and some of the learnings through the online community to really make a change in perspective about what matters, what doesn't, and that sort of waterfalls down into a lot of other aspects. So.
Yeah, that whole don't allow things you can't control to affect you. That is a really, really difficult one, because when you say that, you think, well, the people around me, situations around me always affect me. Right. Emotions, feelings are normal, thoughts. But to have that self-awareness where you are in complete control of your reactions to your feelings, your reactions to what you do with all of those things, and be able to center yourself. It's so difficult. I mean, it's difficult for anybody.
Yeah.
And so because of that, like, what have you seen that has really helped ground you in those moments the most? I mean, I'm sure it's a myriad of things, but we're all human beings, right? And we all have reactive behavior to some degree. what advice would you give someone when they're really thinking like, wow, I really need to get a grip on how I react to these emotions and these feelings that I have? Because I know that I struggle with that too.
I think probably the biggest thing is, can you change the situation? So if it's something that already happened and it's done, then, I mean, you can deal with the aftermath, but you can't change what already happened. So, to get upset about something that you can't change, that's already taken place, it's wasted energy. So maybe there's a lesson to be learned out of it. If you did have some control about what led up to it, then maybe you can make a different decision next time. But if something outside of your control from start to finish happened, but maybe it's close to you or has an impact on you, if you can't fix it, or since it's in the past, I mean, you can't do anything with it anyway. So to get agitated about it, concerned about it, upset about it, it does no good. So, and that is something a while ago that I picked up. When was it? Yeah, probably as a teenager. If I go into that, I mean, because that's something that sticks with me. Before I went in the Marine Corps, I did a lot of competitive marksmanship shooting, from like 200, 300, 600 yards. And I was good at it. I was a lot better at that than calculus. And that's the main reason I went in the Marine Corps. And one of the lessons we learned there was that once you fire a shot, you can't bring the bullet back. It's gone. And, at the start of a match, you say most of them are like 80 shots. You've got 800 points. When you start out, you haven't lost anything yet. And if you have a bad shot, you can either let that bother you, get on your nerves, not follow through on the steps you need to do for your next one, and then you can basically just go downhill from there and screw it up. Or if you do something bad and it doesn't go where you want, you recognize what led up to it. And one of the big things was you're trying too hard, holding it up there too long, and so I just got to get off, and boom, it goes out to the side where you don't want it. So recognize what led up to that bad decision, and heading it off the next time. And in that specific case, like if I could feel like it's up there too long, so after about 10 seconds, your eyes start to fuzz out too. If you're not breathing, like if you're pausing your breath, put it down, take a breath, and come back to it. So the idea that, the bullet's out of the barrel, you can't bring it back. You can't change it. If you screwed it up, figure out what you did. Don't do it the next time. To take that same set of principles and apply it to other stuff, almost, any situation that you come across. If you screw it up, you can't change it. You can't undo it, but you can learn why did it happen and then anticipate it if it's coming up again and change course and get a different result.
I love that. I really love that. And, something we haven't said to you, thank you for your service.
Yes.
Welcome.
I can't believe we haven't said that yet. Thank you for your service. I mean, honestly, like everything with the Marine Corps and how you've been able to center yourself and carry that over. I mean, one of the things we even teach our daughter, and that's a great example, is once you put something out there, you can't take it back. I mean, that's in life in general. And it's easy to take an A, it's easy to take a win and feel good about yourself. It's not easy to recognize that you've put something out there, literally, metaphorically, whatever, and it was not with good intention or not what you meant to do, and then sit with that and learn from it. And that was a great metaphor. I do not mean this about age. I mean this about personality. Hearing you reminded me a lot of my grandfather, because he would say a lot of those things. And he was a Purple Heart veteran, and he had an utmost respect for life in general in that sense. And even with, like you said, with shooting, with guns, with military, with politics, and just in life in general, he's like, be intentional with what you do, understand that everyone has a story. And, I don't know, we've lost a lot of that, haven't we? I don't want to say he was super strict, but he was very convicted in the way that he felt and the way that he lived his life. And, everything he did was with very specific intention. And that's what I kind of thought as you were speaking. And so I just thought that was really, really beautiful. And I loved his whole views on how he navigated every situation because, you know, with that military background, with seeing and experiencing the things, I think that it teaches you that your actions absolutely yield a result, and be aware of the results you're trying to yield, but also do not allow yourself to stay in those moments that make you feel bad about yourself. Learn something and move on from them. That's a really hard thing. So
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that. I think that was great.
You're welcome.
George.
And it reminds me of a quote from Ronald Reagan, and I've got pictures saved a couple places. But to paraphrase it, he says that, you know, a lot of people go through their lives wondering if they've ever made a difference. Marines don't have that problem. So
Right.
That's right. One of the things that I loved most about visiting you, and I told Ryan this, I was like, he is so zen and so
So chill.
calm. Like and I see your Instagram pictures and I'm like, I want to hang out on the front porch and like listen to the Writer's Almanac and drink coffee and just like, you know, pet the dog and just relax. Like you just give off a very, very good vibe.
Yeah, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
So, what does the future look like for George? Like, what are your future goals? Kind of going forward now that obviously we've never had this sobriety thing figured out, but you know, you're getting there in time. So, you know, what are your achievements now? And you got your diploma now too. So, what are your future goals going forward here on out?
Well, I was asked about, am I going to go for my master's now that I got the bachelor's degree? And I could get it paid for, so that's not an issue. But then I looked at it, and it would take about 3 years of constantly having classes. I'm not ready to do that now. So physical health is something I want to pursue and continue to work more at. I'm getting closer to my goal. I want to get at least another 10 pounds down. Ideally, if I can, you know, not lose muscle and continue to trim out, you know, another 30 pounds would be, you know, ideal. We'll see if I get there or not, but continue to work on that while improving my physical condition, and as a side effect, you know, the weight loss and feeling better. But otherwise, I mean, I want to spend more time outside. Didn't get as much motorcycle time this year as I wanted. A lot of schoolwork going on. This afternoon, you know, it's going to be 72 degrees and sunny here, so I'm going to hop on and go out and
Attaboy.
and sit at the drag strip for a while and watch loud cars. So yeah, really just to, you know, make small improvements every day, and that's come up in a couple readings. And so while, you know, I don't have any lofty goals to say travel the world or say get another degree, I'm not looking to move anytime soon. Retirement is, you know, probably 10 plus years out. So right now it's to take care of myself and, you know, do a little bit better every day, and we'll see what comes up.
When you do retire and sell your house, I want to buy it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to say that I get why you're like, when you said no reason to move, you have like the perfect setup. Your house is beautiful.
Thanks.
Your view is beautiful, all that. And, you know, we visited you when we went up to DC, Boston, and New York, and we want to take a trip again, and we would love to come and see you again too.
Yeah.
And I'm down to go to the drag races and listen to wild cars with you.
Yeah.
That sounds fantastic.
They're not there over the winter time, so you know, like March through October is about it. So
yeah,
next summer we'll get the hell out of Tennessee where it's 100 degrees, and we'll come see you.
Yeah.
All right, George. So, what would you tell someone new in sobriety, having all the knowledge that you have now? Someone that may be questioning their decision, or what have you. I mean, what would your advice be to somebody new that's just kind of starting out in this venture?
Yeah, I think there's probably a couple things there. One, as I mentioned earlier, that, you know, nothing in the past. I checked 643 days. Nothing in there. You know, kids getting in a car accident. There's been 2 in the past year. Challenges with work, challenges around the home, social interactions, personal interactions. None of that would have been any better at all, without question, by having a drink or 2 or 10 or whatever. None of that would have been better. And the other thing about the community, I've heard a lot about folks early on or just getting started or wanting to start. And this is my observation, is that a lot of folks come out, and I understand it's a challenge, but the perspective seems to be that the situation is unique. Like, they only drink at night, or this happened, or they've got a bad job, or they've got family troubles, kind of thing. And over time, what I've seen and what I've accepted myself is that while it may be unique if you had enough factors together, overall it's not, and other people have done it and other people have succeeded through it. So if someone is coming into it and say, well, XYZ, that's unique and nobody else has experienced it, I don't think that's accurate. And I'll get a little bit technical, but one thing I learned in my studies this year, there was a phenomenon called the Dunning-Kruger effect. And the more knowledge and experience someone has, the more they accept that they don't know more. And the smaller the amount of knowledge and experience someone has, the less they're willing to accept that something else is out there, that they don't know something. So on one end of the spectrum, somebody that has more experience, more knowledge, more education, they're almost always looking for another option. Like, well, this may not be right. What else is out there? At the other end, where the experience is limited, the opinions become more solidified. Like, I've never seen anyone do this, therefore it must not be possible. So that was a very interesting change in perspective. So I would say that if anyone is feeling like nobody has been in their shoes before, if you add up enough of the specifics about the situation, maybe. But overall, there are other people out there that have been successful that have had the same, and a lot of times worse, overall situations. So I would say stick with it. You're not alone. It is possible to get through it. You can't set your sights on forever. And I found that out recently, even just small things like exercise. You go do something for 30 minutes. Well, the first 30 seconds seems like an eternity. So I got 29 and a half minutes to go.
That's
But
right.
you keep at it. And, the quote today about Confucius, a small step, no matter how small, in the right direction, it just looks still progress. So it doesn't have to, no one has to solve for forever like today. Make your next decision count. Have a glass of water, go for a walk, take a nap, get something to eat, anything like that. So, but it is possible. You can't fix it today. There's always going to be growth, and I look at it as there's no magic milestone. Not 2 years, 5 years, 10 years out. It's just do a little bit better every day, and then when the end comes, the end comes, and not worried about that now.
Yeah,
That's great advice. I love that, because it really does solidify that, you just keep moving forward. You just keep taking a step. Don't get caught up on the big picture, because that's how my brain functions. That's how our daughter's brain functions too. You have all these things to do and you get stuck in the big picture, rather than saying, like, just focus on one thing today. I gave someone advice a while back when I had started my mental health journey, and they're like, I can't do that. I can't do that. I don't, I don't have, I don't have a husband like you do. I don't have this. I don't have that. There's always a million reasons not to do something. So I love that you say that, because it's like, okay, well, when you wake up today, or in the middle of the day, or even before you go to bed, just one thing that you're going to do that is tangible, that is better. So whether it be, I'm going to go to bed 1 hour earlier, or I'm going to not sit in my PJs all day. It just one simple, free, accessible thing that doesn't cost money, or at first even a lot of energy, just one. Because I find that when you do that one thing, you get that dopamine hit. And you're like, I feel good. And it makes you continue to chase that, as opposed to chasing alcohol, food, whatever it is. And so that's just great advice for literally anybody in life.
100%.
And one other thing that brings up, and I'll probably include more details in the speaker share, But years ago, I think it was 1991, there was space in a class to go to, and I didn't have to go to it, but there was space. So I got sent up to Maine, and it was intended for air crew. And I rode on helicopter some, but wasn't officially air crew. So all the air crew guys had to take it to pilots and everything. But it was how to be a POW, basically, like how to survive in the woods, how to evade capture, how to resist questioning, and how to escape. It was 7 or 8 days long. I lost 11 pounds in a week. I had like a bologna sandwich on Monday, and then we had food like early Sunday a.m. when we got done. And at the end of it, the honorary commander, I guess, was a Vietnam era prisoner of war who spent more than 5 years in a POW camp. And his speech talk at the end was probably as impactful as the whole week of fun we had to go through. And he said that, he had no idea if he was ever going to make it out. But he said that he knew that someday it would end. And for him at that time, that either meant he would get his freedom and go home, or, he would not make it out. So he focused on that day, surviving that day. And he said one day it would be over. And for him, he made it out after 5 years. He can't use one arm. He's blind in one eye. But that perspective of the horrors he was going through, and to just stick with it. And he says, well, it's not over today, maybe tomorrow. And to stick with that for that amount of time. So that perspective and the horrific torture he had to go through, and that really puts him in perspective, like, oh, my tire's flat. Okay, just change your tire, get a ride, something like that. Right. So it really puts in perspective about challenges that most people face compared to what some people have gone through, and that reinforces that, it is possible.
Yeah, we are capable of so much more than we give ourselves credit for, or that we allow ourselves to be. Again, I don't mean to keep bringing you back to this, but you said prisoner of war. My grandfather, that's why he was a Purple Heart. He was a prisoner of war. He was captured on Halloween night. And I can't remember how long he was held, but he made it out, obviously, and he was shot in the head and survived. I actually found that transcript on Ancestry.com. Remember, I sent it to you where he was interviewed when he came back. I'll have to send it to Ryan to send to you to read. And he's been gone for a very, very long time. He's buried in Houston, in the military cemetery there. And I thought about that same thing. I was like reading, and it's difficult to read when, and this, but when you're reading about those experiences, like they really are horrific. And I just remember he always had such like a fun loving spirit. Like I knew him as Pop, right? Yeah. Like I knew him as like jovial Pop, and he would walk, and his favorite thing were like chocolate, Wendy's. What am I trying to say? Frosties from Wendy's. Yeah, and, I'd be watching cartoons, and he'd come out and like belly laugh, and he's like, how you not laugh at that? That's hilarious. And I'm not glorifying anything, but as I got older, because as a kid, you just think, oh, that's just Pop. He's just silly. But I realized it's because he had gone through so many experiences that he lived life. Yeah. He, like I said, he was intentional. And, his saying, how can you not laugh at that? He's like, laugh at every moment that you have, embrace every good moment. Yeah. And then just recently when I read that transcript, I mean, it gave me chills, I'll have to send it to you. I think it's something that you would really appreciate. Yeah, I like that. And he was a great man. So thank you for sharing that.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
So, George, you're finally doing your speaker share. Why don't you let everybody know exactly when is the date that you're doing that on Reframe?
September 27th.
27th at 9:00. George has his speaker share, usually runs about an hour and 15 minutes.
We'll see. Like I'm still deciding on what approach to take. I've got a few notes, nothing ready to go yet. So we'll see. I don't think it's going to go 2.5 hours. So
yeah, sorry about that.
It was good.
Yeah, mine is eternally going to be known as the share.
It was good.
Takes a damn long.
Time well spent.
Yeah, thank you. So I want to go back to your drinking days and ask you a question. Where was the funniest or craziest place you took a piss and the story behind it
While drunk.
while drunk.
Probably almost to the bathroom on a cruise ship.
Almost to the bathroom.
Yeah.
In a confined ship.
Yeah.
So there's got to be a little story behind it.
Overall, it was a good time. I think the headliners on that one, it was a music cruise, and this was more than 10 years ago. But the headliners was Five Finger Death Punch.
There you
and
go.
The year before that, it was Godsmack 1 on 2. So, yeah, and the last 2 or 3 nights, there was not much sleep. They had different themes every night. And I think that was the last night. So it was sometime in the morning, 2 or 3, something like that. So, yeah, but it was interesting. About that same time, I remember a lady coming out onto the pool deck, and she had a bikini bottom on, and she had the pasties from an AED, automatic defibrillator, and she was carrying that, and that's all she had on. So it got pretty rough.
The visual I have in my head right now is her like accidentally talking.
Yeah. And the disappointing thing about the cruise was that since it was like chartered, they canceled some of their normal events, so that like the tours of the engine room, they didn't have those. I was a bit bummed about that. So.
Oh god.
So follow up question about the pee story, okay? And I'm gonna try to ask this where it's appropriate. Was it like a whip it out and pee because you had to go, or was it a oh my god I'm pissing my pants?
Going in my pants.
Yeah, it was like almost made it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because this one, and you've yet to tell your best pee story. We'll get to that on a podcast. But this one was a whip it out and pee anywhere. Not a, I feel like the whole
I like to mark my territory.
I almost got there is a little more acceptable than just freely.
I guess I'll say that the whip it out story didn't involve alcohol, but it did involve an electric fence hiding behind the tall grass. So
that is wait. That one sounds way better than the cruise story.
Growing up on a friend's farm and out in the field, and had to go near a fence post and didn't see the electric fence.
Ouch.
I get that. Recently, I took Ryan to where I grew up in Texas, and I grew up in the country. He can attest now, the country. And the people behind us had an emu farm.
Okay.
And they'd let us go up there and see that, how would you describe, like, I didn't live in a neighborhood. It was just in the country, and there were houses around us, but not neighborhood.
Yeah, a handful of houses.
Yeah, like a handful of houses. And so everybody knew each other, and we all, walked on each other's property. Nobody cared. And I, for whatever reason, just leaned up against the electric fence and shocked the shit out of myself. I'm like 8 years old, and, our parents were just like, yeah, you're fine, whatever.
Rub some dirt on it.
Yeah, and I think I cried for like 2 seconds. So I didn't pee on one, but I leaned up against one. Not a good feeling. Yeah. That's great.
Well, George, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. Love you, buddy. I'll see you in meetings here coming up pretty soon. I'm really looking forward to seeing that diploma up on that wall behind you.
Yeah, they said like 3 to 6 weeks to come in the mail, so it'll be a little bit, but so
awesome.
That's awesome. The next time we're on a podcast together, because I'm sure you'll be back, I have a request. You must have your coffee bar behind you.
Okay.
You must film with the coffee bar.
I can do that.
And I request a little demo.
Yes.
Okay.
Always a demo.
Where you can show everybody how you make your beautiful coffee.
Yeah, I could do that. We'll see how well it comes out with the pressure on the camera. So
you got it.
So,
all right,
thanks,
George.
Yeah, thanks for having me,
buddy. Have a good one.
Absolutely.
Appreciate
Thanks.
it. See you, buddy.
Bye.
If you love the podcast, which I know you do, please like, subscribe,
and hit that notification bell to get
Boom.
notified every time we post.
That's right. Dropping them, baby. Word.